Değerli konuklar, sürdürülebilir hizmetlerin geliştirilmesi konulu birinci oturuma hoş geldiniz. Sıradaki konuşmacımız Sayın Sam McCloskey. Özgeçmişinden bahsetmek istiyorum. 18 yıllık bir danışmanlık kariyerinin ardından Mayıs 2012'de İleri Sürdürülebilir Enerji Merkezi'ne müdür, Mayıs 2013'te ise direktör olarak atanmıştır. Çeşitli sanayi sektörlerinde enerji, sürdürülebilirlik ve kaynak verimliliği konularında program yönetimi odaklı yerel projelerden Pan-Avrupa projelerine kadar proje yönetimi konusunda geniş bir deneyime sahiptir. Sam 10 yıldan uzun süre boyunca RDF tarafından finanse edilen Renewables programının Kuzey İrlanda yöneticisi olarak görev almıştır. Matrix Sürdürülebilir Enerji için Kuzey İrlanda Bilimsel Araştırma Paneli'nin bir üyesi olarak Kuzey İrlanda'da 2035'e kadar sürdürülebilir enerji için yol haritası geliştirilmesinde görev almıştır. Aynı zamanda Kuzey İrlanda'daki en büyük sosyal girişim organlarından biri olan Workspace grubun bağımsız yönetim kurulu üyesidir. 2011'den beri İleri Sürdürülebilir Enerji Merkezi'nde 3 öncelikli alanda sanayi araştırma ihtiyaçlarını belirlemek için Kuzey İrlanda'da iş dünyası ve akademi ile birlikte çalışmaktadır. Biyokütleden, tribünlerden ve enerji sistemlerinden enerji üretilmesi konuları. Merkez bugüne kadar biyokütleden mikro şebekeye, gelgit enerjisine kadar 25 ortak araştırma projesine fon sağlamıştır. Ve Invest Kuzey İrlanda'nın Yeterlilik Merkezi programındaki araştırma projeleri için 5 milyon sterlinden fazla finansmana erişimi bulunmaktadır. İleri Sürdürülebilir Enerji Merkezi ayrıca sanayinin diğer uluslararası, Avrupa ve ulusal finansman mekanizmaları yoluyla ek Ar-Ge fonlarından yararlanılmasına destek olmaktadır. Sam 3.6 milyon euroluk Marie Curie projesinde proje koordinatörlüğünü de içeren bir dizi Avrupa finansmanlı projede önemli bir rol üstlenmiştir. Halen deniz ve biyoenerji araştırmalarına odaklanan Interreg VA tarafından 9.7 milyon euro ile finanse edilen bir endüstriyel doktora araştırma merkezi olan Bryden Center'de yönetim kurulu danışmanı olarak görev yapmaktadır. İleri Sürdürülebilir Enerji Merkezi Direktörü Sayın Sam McCloskey'i sürdürülebilir enerjide fırsatlar, sıfırdan kahramanlığa giriş konulu sunumunu yapmak için davet ediyorum.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the introduction. I'm honoured to be here this afternoon, and thank you very much for my invitation and to the Organisation Committee at the Chamber. I'm here on behalf of Northern Ireland Cooperation Overseas, NICO, as part of their EU-funded Innovative Entrepreneurship project today. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sustainable energy opportunities in the green economy, moving from zero to hero. So just to give you a little bit of a plan of the talk, I'm going to first talk about the global energy position, so putting things into context for you. Talk a little bit about how things are in Europe, and then my understanding of what's happening here in the northern part of Cyprus and how quickly I have learned, particularly over the last couple of days. I'm going to put that, compare that to other islanded energy systems, and in particular my own experience in Northern Ireland, and then look at what the opportunities are, what we've seen from a Northern Ireland perspective, and how we can potentially work together to create opportunities between us. And then finally finishing on the challenges and the support mechanisms that might be required. So let's take a look at the global energy position. And these are figures that have come from the International Energy Agency most recently in March 2019. And you can see demand rose for energy by 2.3% last year. So in a period of time when we should be looking at energy efficiency and energy reduction measures, overall global demand for energy is on the increase and has a continuing trajectory in that respect. And with that, coupled with that, energy-related carbon dioxide emissions are up by 1.7%. Natural gas remains the fuel of choice, with the USA and China having the biggest growth in gas. And fossil fuels still account for 70% of the total energy mix in the world. Solar and wind, the good news from a renewables perspective, do continue to grow at double-digit pace, but not enough to keep up with the increasing demand for energy. And electricity, according to the International Energy Agency, is classed as the fuel of the future. A fifth of the extra demand for energy, and this is a key point just to reflect some of the comments made this morning, is for extra demand for heating and cooling. And we set that into the context of the changing climate that we're seeing at the moment, which has affected temperatures around the globe. So just looking at it from a graphical perspective, world energy consumption by fuel, still oil and coal dominant, and still on the rise. So let's take that down another notch and look at the European situation. Is it any different? Well, let's look at the positive. Let's focus on the renewable energy penetration across Europe. And it may not be very easy to see, but you can see from the slide at the top, the high number of renewables penetration is with the Scandinavian countries mostly, with Sweden leading the way at over 50%. And the UK and Ireland are actually beside Cyprus towards the lower end of the graph. What I'm going to talk to you about is a certain region within the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, which has a slightly different story to tell, but overall the UK figure is still off the 20% target. And it's important that the whole of Europe does have a 20% renewable energy target by gross final energy consumption by 2020. And as you can see, still a little bit of a way off. So looking at it by a European renewable energy mix. So the renewable mix is predominated by wood and solid biofuels, and wind is the second most available fuel or used fuel from a renewables perspective. But notably, again, the trajectory, there is more of a renewable mix within the total fuel economy. And the European trends then, with a 20% share of gross final energy consumption from renewables as a target by 2020. In total, I think it's 13.9% as of current figures. Energy consumption more than doubled between 2004 and 2017, which is a significant concern. Primary production of renewables equated to 226.5 megatons of oil equivalent. And the highest levels of production, as you saw earlier, were in Sweden, Finland, Latvia, Denmark, and Austria. 19.5% of the energy is used for heating and cooling, which has risen from 10.4% in 2004. So again, heating and cooling and the climate playing an important part. And finally, 7.6% of the energy mix used in transportation. So we've talked a lot about energy and climate. So I will put the climate into some context. We're currently operating on a global perspective at 1 degree higher than pre-industrial levels. And the Paris Agreement of European countries talked about not increasing the temperature by more than 2 degrees. A more recent report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said that we can't accept 2 degrees. We have to consider moving it down to 1.5. And the climate effects of those changes, we're already feeling hurricanes in the US, droughts in South Africa, and forest fires in the Arctic. We have to start acting now. And it's the IPCC report claims we have 11 years. We must cut carbon pollution by 45% by 2030. 2030, when I first read that, sounds like a long way away. It's 11 years away. And the important fact on this slide that I should have emboldened was that the energy sector is the highest contributor to global greenhouse gas emissions. So the best thing that we can do, the action that we can start taking now, is to decarbonise energy. If we do nothing, we're looking at a 3 degree rise in temperature. So why don't we start looking at this more holistically? And this is an overview of an energy system taken from the energy chapter of the IPCC report And whilst it looks complicated, why I wanted to show it was that it shows the opportunities from waste production to primary energy production, right through from final energy use. The opportunities to make a change from a green economy perspective and a climate change perspective at any one of those boxes. So we talked a lot, and we do talk a lot about renewable energy. And my work in sustainable energy research sometimes I need to explain to renewable energy industry that it's not just about taking action and making a renewable energy solution to a problem. It's about looking at sustainable energy as a whole. So the renewable energy technologies, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, you're all familiar with wind and solar power and hydro, wave and tidal, all of the things that make up a renewable energy mix that you saw on previous slides. But what people don't often talk about enough, and where there are also opportunities, is in, as well as renewables, in energy reduction, in energy efficiency, in energy storage and system optimization, in looking at a holistic energy system, at the circular economy. I think there are others maybe talking about circular economy later, and about carbon capture, storage and carbon utilization. So it's all of those things that add up to potential. So I'm going to just, I suppose, just explain my understanding of what I've learned about the local energy system here in the northern part of Cyprus. Some of you could potentially correct me, but it's in order to make the comparison with Northern Ireland, where I'm from. So one electricity utility company, diesel and steam or fossil fuel focused. There are some security of supply issues with additional capacity required, and I actually had that confirmed to me over lunch today. A peak summer demand, we have a peak winter demand, but peak summer demand of around 333 megawatts. Potentially some disagreement and maybe haven't got the figures totally correct on renewable energy systems, but mostly solar, with a significant amount of small-scale solar installed. The need for interconnection and emissions reduction considerations are actually being discussed at a local level. So that's my platform for where we are. I'll just give you some examples then from where I come from. So Northern Ireland is a fellow islanded grid system. We're on an island and we're connected to the Republic of Ireland. We have 3 traditional power stations, fossil fuel, coal and combined cycle gas turbines. Peak winter demand, because we need to keep warm, is 1,800 megawatts. And we have a 40% target for renewable energy, which is above that of the rest of the UK at the time, by 2020. And pleasingly, and I was a skeptic 10 years ago, thinking that we would never make it based on our grid system, but we've reached 44% renewable energy penetration, with 89% of that being wind. Our difficulty is that we generate wind in the west of Northern Ireland, and we have our industry concentration in the east of Northern Ireland, so that can create some difficulties with transfer. So we have grid constraints, we have some security of supply issues, we have had an almost 15-year delay in an interconnector due to planning constraints. We have a further interconnector with Scotland at the very northern tip of the UK, which is only operating at half capacity, and it's too expensive to fix. So instead of operating at 500 megawatts, we only have 250 megawatts. And we won't even start talking about Brexit and the implications that may have on our all-island energy system. We do have some global firsts, and some of you may not know what the picture on the right-hand side of the screen is. This is a 2 megawatt tidal energy device that has been in an area of Northern Ireland called Strangford Lough. It's been generating electricity since 2018 and was the world's first grid-connected tidal device. So Northern Ireland, a very little country, was able to make some global firsts. So I told you that 20 years ago we had 3 traditional power stations, and our latest figures from Department for Economy say that we now have 23,000 power stations connected to a grid that was initially built to support 3 large-scale fossil fuel stations. I used to think that it wasn't possible, and I've been proven very, very nicely wrong. So with energy comes some bad news and with some good news, and Northern Ireland has had its share of bad news stories. I've already related some of these to you. Lights out, who will be to blame? We were grade C on the energy. Our capacity generation statement says we have issues with security of supply. This is the headline news. So many of you may not know, but we introduced a renewable heat incentive in Northern Ireland several years ago, which had a fatal flaw in that there was no cap on the incentive. And this particular piece of renewable energy incentive brought down the Northern Ireland Assembly, and our First Minister and Deputy First Minister fell out because there was no cap. The scheme was immediately called into question. There has been an ongoing inquiry, and the Northern Ireland Government has not sat since January 2017 because of a flawed renewable energy policy. So that's not good news, and that has had far-reaching implications as far as renewable energy is concerned in Northern Ireland. But it's not all bad news. And despite all of that, we've been working to get that 44% target. We've got some significant funding. We've got 200 megawatts of licenses for tidal energy, some world firsts, some extra spend, wind power meeting new highs, and just yesterday when I landed from Northern Ireland into Cyprus, there was an announcement by our system operator in Northern Ireland of an aspiration, probably more than an aspiration, to connect 95% of renewable energy to the grid within the next 5 years, and a commitment to spend £500 million in doing so. Not quite sure where the 500 million is going to come from, but the aspiration is very, very much welcome. So I did a little bit of a comparison between what I understand of the northern part of Cyprus and with Northern Ireland. We're both islanded system. We are both very much imported fossil fuel dependent. We rely on 99% of our fossil fuels come from outside of Northern Ireland. We have a requirement for, or a reliance on, interconnection. Northern Ireland is desperate for an interconnection. We have an available renewable energy resource in Northern Ireland. It's always green, so there's plenty of grass to feed anaerobic digestion plants because it rains a lot. And we have lots of wind, and the sun seems to shine all the time here, so a definite solar energy resource and perhaps more. There are policy gaps. Northern Ireland is operating outside of a strategic energy framework. There is a new framework being developed to set targets above and beyond the 40%, but we're still working in a policy gap in Northern Ireland, and there are opportunities galore for us to add further renewables onto the grid. And then I thought I'd just do a very quick comparison with a developing renewable energy system due to some work I've been doing with Belfast City Council in South Africa, just to show that we're not alone when we have problems as far as energy is concerned. South Africa has a monopoly energy supply company called Eskom. They are cheap, coal dependent, and their incentives to move to renewables, despite the sunshine, are very limited. There's historical civil unrest has been in Northern Ireland, and challenging climatic conditions. When I was there was a severe drought. There's low levels of renewable energy, poor social acceptance of renewables. In Durban, there is one 1 megawatt wind turbine that had to be removed from the place that it was originally installed because of the social unacceptance of that particular turbine, and had to be taken into the university to be used as a research item. And they have new policies which are very aspirational targets similar to our own in Northern Ireland, that when they weren't met were just pushed out for another 10 years. So the targets remain, but the incentives to deliver on them are limited. So there's, I suppose, another comparison as far as a developing economy is concerned. So I looked at the opportunities here in particular, and drawing from some of the experiences that we've had in Northern Ireland. And I looked at them in 3 areas: research and development, diversification, and then site and technology development for the organisations here. So as far as research and development is concerned, there's a wide range of opportunities across the commercialisation pathway. Potentially in industry-led research. There was mention of the Bryden Centre in my introduction, so it's an industrial doctorate research centre. So we actually are able to deliver PhD students to work with industry to develop renewable and sustainable energy solutions to challenges. Collaborative academia and industry collaborations, which is where I spend most of my time, supporting industry working with academics on projects to deliver in particular areas of interest. And then access to local, international, national and European funding, which support and drive renewable energy. And the areas for research, well, they're endless, but I just put a few that came into my mind. So it could be research into the resource type, and I think we heard earlier on about some solar energy research that's been going on here. Into the technology, the design, the fabrication of that technology, the mobilisation, getting it to site, the installation on site. Energy systems, grid balancing, renewable energy integration, the economics, the environmental impacts, the social acceptance, the policy, the climate, the carbon, a whole range of different areas where research is critical to innovating through a renewable energy change. So as I said, the next step is in looking at where companies may have diversified from traditional delivery of products and services to new products and services. And I wanted to give you just a few examples that I've come across in the work that I've been doing. So on the agricultural or farming side, a number of farmers have looked at the opportunities to develop anaerobic digestion plants on their farm sites, so they can use waste materials from the farm and also grow energy crops in order to be able to create an extra revenue stream on the farm. So that's happened, and there are 80 on-farm anaerobic digestion plants in Northern Ireland, which have developed over the last 5 years. So looking at construction and the civil engineering, which makes sense being as where we are, we supported an engineering contractor in the development and design of a marine energy foundation specific to anchoring marine renewable devices to the ocean. And this particular company were also the first to deploy a device in the Bay of Fundy in Canada, so a very global outlook in that particular sector. We have a fishing fleet in Northern Ireland that have joined together in a collaborative network to provide services outside of their normal fishing activity as ocean energy support vessels, and that's all sizes of vessels depending on what kind of support is needed, what types of ocean. A roofing contractor who we're working with who has designed and developed a nano-composite solar PV panel that can be included into the roof infrastructure in a tile or onto the facade of a house. And then engineering consultancies, and there's not just one of them but plenty, and this is where my background originally was, who diversified into undertaking environmental studies to support renewable energy developments. And then the third area of opportunity is in site and technology development, and I used pictures to describe this. So starting at the top left, that's the Holland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. So any of you that have heard of the Titanic, that's where the Titanic was built. There was a better success story for the SR2000, which is the tidal energy device that's leaving the Holland and Wolff shipyards on its way to the European Marine Energy Test Centre. But Holland and Wolff diversified, created an opportunity in technology development and fabricated that SR2000 device, so moving into a different area of work. Picture number 2 is a solar farm at Northern Ireland Water's sewage treatment works. Northern Ireland Water is our largest energy consumer, and they've started to develop solar farms in order to support and reduce their energy costs. A local contractor, Graham Construction, developed and built the solar farm on behalf of Northern Ireland Water. So it's an opportunity for that particular construction company to move into site development in the renewables sector. Picture number 3 is taken about 3 miles from my home and is a Crockendon wind farm. So it's an 18 megawatt wind farm which was built in a very, very short space of time. But wind development, if you open a window anywhere in Northern Ireland, you will see wind farms galore. So it's just an example of one that has created an opportunity for a wide range of different skills and capabilities. And number 4, I'm a little bit reluctant because of the mention of concrete earlier on, but is a concrete tank, prefabricated concrete tank for an AD plant also in Northern Ireland. So again, opportunities for site and technology development and ongoing operation and maintenance in a range of different renewable energy areas. So where are the challenges? Let's be open and honest about these. Is the infrastructure capable of connections of the new renewables? What are the resource restrictions? So you move to maximise the opportunities within a region. Is it just solar? Is there opportunity for wind or bioenergy here? What are the regulation constraints? Planning, you heard about planning issues that we'd had for 15 years. Are there environmental licensing constraints? NIMBYism, not in my backyard. So what is the level of social acceptance of renewables within the area? Is there insufficient policy, insufficient subsidy? We've just had all of our subsidy incentive removed from Northern Ireland, which is making it difficult to justify a cost benefit to an investor of a renewable energy development. And then, have you got academic willingness, capability and capacity? And I think probably the answer would be yes to that one. So I'm going to finish on a high. What does great look like? So great looks like you've got a renewable energy resource. It can be integrated as part of the whole system energy mix in the region. You've got the supporting infrastructure that possibly has auxiliary services, energy storage, demand-side management, all those other sustainable energy things we were talking about. You've got capacity and capability and a willing and enthusiastic industry base and partners in academia. There is some R&D funding available to support that because some of the technologies are still at lower technology readiness levels. You've got an enthusiastic, supportive energy agency or body that provides a one-stop shop for you. A willing network operator or transmission system operator who might even let you be flexible and test some things on their grid. Stakeholder engagement and acceptance and access to finance. So that's the perfect and great scenario. So if I were to sum up, what I would say is it is possible. We went from 3 to 23,000 plus with an aspiration for 95% renewables penetration on the grid. It won't and can't happen overnight. It will be a journey rather than a destination. But apart from the green job opportunities that come from sustainable energy, we also, and we've heard a lot about it already, have a moral obligation in these times of climate emergency. And I don't kid when I say climate emergency. Our local city council yesterday claimed that we were in climate emergency, but it is a global issue, as we've heard. So I'm going to finish just with a message from President Barack Obama, who says, we're the first generation to feel the impact of climate change, and we're the last generation that can do anything about it.